What are ethics in counseling? Ethics in counseling are concerned with human conduct and doing what is the best interest of the client. Ethics are not always clear-cut and concise. They are suggested standard of conduct based on specific professional values and moral decision-making. Generally, ethics in counseling are established by professional organizations such as the American Counseling Association and the American Psychological Association. So, ethics in counseling are suggested standard of conduct based on professional values and moral decision-making. Ethics in counseling are concerned with doing what is best for the client. Ethics are important to protect both the client and the counselor. Ethics in counseling are concerned with human conduct, moral decision-making, and doing what is best for the client. In counseling, ethical guidelines can maximize clients' benefits and minimize potential harm to the client. Ethical guidelines can also protect counselors from repercussions that can occur when ethical principles are violated. The ethics in counseling are what counselors follow to protect both themselves and their clients. Ethics may comprise personal moral qualities and key ethical guidelines. Personal moral qualities in counseling often include empathy, integrity, humility, resilience, competence. Empathy, the ability to understand a client's feelings or thoughts from their point of view. Integrity, being honest with strong moral values. Humility, acknowledgement of one's own weaknesses. Resilience, the ability to recover from difficult situations. Competence, the ability to perform a duty efficiently. Principles in counseling. Number 1, acceptance. Number 2, individualization. Number 3, confidentiality. Number 4, self-determination. Number 5, controlled emotional involvement. Number 6, non-judgmental attitude. These 6 principles form a strong foundation for effective counseling and are essential in fostering a therapeutic alliance between the counselor and the client. Here's a brief overview of each. Acceptance. These principles involves the counselor creating a supportive environment where a client feels valued and understood without conditions. Acceptance helps build trust and encourage a client to share their thoughts and feelings openly. Individualization. Each client is unique and counseling approaches should be tailored to meet their specific needs and circumstances. This principle emphasizes understanding and addressing the distinct characteristics of each client's situation. Confidentiality is crucial in counseling as it protects the privacy of the information shared by the client. It creates a safe space for openness and honesty, essential for effective therapy. Breaches of confidentiality can damage the therapeutic relationship and hinder the counseling process. Self-determination. Counselors support clients in making their own decisions and encourage them to take control of their lives. This empowerment is critical in helping clients develop autonomy and independence. Controlled emotional involvement. While counselors should empathize with their clients, maintaining a certain degree of professional detachment is important. This helps in providing objective and biased support and prevent the counselor's personal feelings from influencing the therapy process. Non-judgmental attitude. Counselors should refrain from passing judgment on clients' thoughts, feelings, behavior, or life circumstances. A non-judgmental approach fosters a more open and trusting relationship, enabling clients to explore difficult issues without fear of criticism or rejection.
So now our topic is about Calmer's emotional reaction to problems. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was an American psychiatrist who is best known for her work on death and dying. She wrote the book on death and dying in 1969, which outlined the 5 stages that terminally ill patient experience: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. She dedicated her life to the care of the terminally ill and initiated more than 50 hospices around the world. She also started the world's first prison hospices in Vacaville, California in 1985. She was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame in 2007 and was the recipient of 20 honorary degrees. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross passed away in August 2004. And now, who developed the 5 stages of grief? The 5 stages of grief model was developed by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and became famous after she published her book on death and dying in 1969. He believed that death should be considered a normal stage of life and advocate for better treatment and care for the terminally ill. She was a pioneer in the field of near-death studies and made significant contribution to the understanding of grief and the psychological aspect of death. Developed her model to describe people with terminal illness facing their own death, but it was soon adopted as a way of thinking about grief in general. Through life, we experience many instances of grief. A wife may grieve the death of her husband. A teenager might grieve the ending of relationship. And now, this is a symptoms of grief. Grief symptoms may present themselves physically, socially, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. Headache, difficulty sleeping, questioning the purpose of life, questioning your spiritual beliefs, feeling of detachment, isolation from friends and family, abnormal behavior, including worry, anxiety, frustration, guilt, fatigue, anger, loss of appetite, aches and pains, and stress. The most important thing to remember when dealing with grief is that it's okay to feel the way you do. Seeking support from loved ones or a mental health professional can be very helpful. And now, the next topic is about treatment of grief.
Treatment of grief. Counseling is a more solid approach to grief. Support groups, bereavement groups, or individual counseling can help you work through unresolved grief. This is a beneficial treatment alternative when you find the grief event is creating obstacles in your everyday life and you are having trouble functioning. So when it comes to treatment of grief, counseling is an effective treatment for grief. It involves participating in support groups, bereavement groups, or individual counseling. These options are helpful when you experience obstacles in your daily life and struggle to function due to unresolved grief. Counseling provides support, guidance, and coping strategy to work through your grief and find healing. What are the 5 common stages of grief? First, denial. Second, anger. Third, bargaining. Fourth, depression. Fifth, acceptance. So, what is denial? Denial is a common to feel numb and it continue if nothing has happened in the early days after a loss. Even when intellectually aware of the person's death, it can be difficult to truly believe that someone is important is gone. Anger. After a loss, feeling anger is a natural and understandable emotion. Bargaining. When in pain, acceptance of the situation can be challenging. Bargaining involves making deals with oneself or a higher power, hoping that certain action will bring relief or a sense of control. Depression. Sadness and longing are commonly associated with grief. This intense pain can come in waves over extended period, leading to a sense of emptiness and fear that life no longer holds meaning. The last one, acceptance. Grief can feel overwhelming, but gradually, many individuals find that the pain lessens it becomes possible to accept the reality of the loss and move forward. Although waves of grief are still calm. It is important to remember that these stages are not always experienced in a linear way or the same pace. Everyone's experience of grief is unique, but understanding the stages can provide insight into the emotional journey of grief. So, what are the connection of these 5 stages of grief in counseling? The 5 stages of grief theory is often used in counseling to help clients understand and navigate their emotions during the grieving process. Counselors can utilize this theory to guide their interventions and support clients in a more informed and effective manner.
And now let's talk about the person-centered theory. So, this is also known as a person-centered therapy, which is developed by Carl Roger. So, person-centered theory or person-centered therapy operates on the humanistic belief that the client is inherently driven toward and has a capacity for growth and self-actualization. So, itatackle namin ito ngayon kasi may connection din ito sa counseling, which is we will undergo interview or some that kind of practice, and then also may mga condition or mga technique na ipapakita ko last explanation ko about this person-centered therapy, which is makukuha natin ng idea or makakuha tayo ng technique on how we deal with the client. So in my last explanation, and this is itackle ko muna yung una, which is para maintindihan natin kung ano ba talaga yung person-centered theory, kung bakit kailangan natin mag-undergo ng therapy sa mga taong ganito or mga naka-experience ng ganito. And this is also lahat din tayo naka-experience ng ganitong kind of situation or a problem. So, dito muna tayo sa Rogers' basic assumption. So, dito natin malalaman or maiintindihan kung bakit ganun yung explanation ng kanyang person-centered theory. Bakit we have a capacity to grow, and we have a capacity or we have a self-actualization. So, itong theory na to is based din sa tinatawag natin yung kang Abraham Maslow, yung may hierarchy of needs. So yun, mako-connect natin to based on this basic assumption of Rogers or Carl Roger. So ang una niyang basic assumption, kasi may dalawa siyang basic assumption, which is the formative tendency and also the actualizing tendency. So in the formative tendency of Rogers, so Rogers in 1978-1980, so he believed that there is a tendency for all matter, both organic and non-organic, to evolve from simpler to more complex forms. So it means lahat ng mga non-living or living organism have the capacity to grow, which is from simple single cell to multicellular cell, and then magiging organism, magiging hayop, and then to evolve, which is ma-connect din natin yung theory ni Charles Darwin, which is magkakaroon tayo ng awareness sa ating sarili, which is human being. So yun ang ibig sabihin niya sa kanyang basic assumption, which is the formative tendency. Sabi pa niya dito, complex galaxy of star from a less well-organized mass, crystals such as snowflakes emerge from formless vapor, a complex organism develop from single cell, and the human consciousness evolves from a primitive consciousness to a highly organized awareness. So dito naman tayo sa pangalawang basic assumption of Carl Roger, which is the actualizing tendency. So this is the tendency within all humans, and other animals and plants to move toward completion or fulfillment of potential. So sa unang tendency na sinabi niya is yung organism is mag-grow into simpler to complex form, which is hindi pa yun yung actualizing or self-actualization na sinasabi ni Carl Roger, which is yung sinabi niya sa definition niya na growth and self-actualization. So yung una is growth pa lang yun, pero yung pangalawa is ang human daw or ang plants and animals have a capacity or hindi siya capacity but had this maximum potential of every human, every animals and plants or non-living things na nandito sa sa mundo. So may self-actualization na mangyayari or makuha yung full potential ng isang nabubuhay dito sa mundo. But sabi ni Roger, hindi daw may limited lang daw yung maximum potential ng isang plant at saka yung hayop, kasi hindi naman yun has a great capacity of cognitive capacity na katulad natin, na may awareness tayo sa sarili natin, aware tayo sa paligid natin, or has this IQ na sinasabi natin, no, na magbibigay ng full potential talaga, mas higher pa doon sa plants at saka animals. So limited lang yung self-actualization niya, sabi ni Carl Roger. So sabi pa niya dito is, this tendency is only the motive people possesses. So mas nandun nakafocus sa mga tao. And then because each person operates as one complete organism, actualization involves the whole person, psychological and intellectual. So physiological and intellectual. So hindi lang siya sa physical but also the intellectual, the rational and the emotional. So nandun na yung emotional, then conscious and unconscious. So doon na yung awareness natin na makikita dito sa second tendency, which is the actualizing tendency. So dito naman tayo, may dalawang subtopic kasi yung actualizing tendency, which is the maintenance and the enhancement. So yung actualizing tendency, hindi lang siya basta-basta makukuha mo, but you have to maintain, no? Maintain, sabi pa ni Carl Roger. So in maintenance, so similar to the lower steps on Maslow hierarchy of needs. So sinabi pa niya doon na connected siya dito sa hierarchy of needs, which is meron yung the survival needs, yung mga ganun, yung physiological needs. Magsisimula talaga tayo doon sa pinakamababang stage hanggang sa top, yung makuha na natin yung self-actualization, yung sinasabi pa doon sa theory ni Abraham Maslow. So it includes such as basic needs as food, air, and safety, but it also includes the tendency to resist change and to seek the status quo. Q ba yun? Basta, yun. So, may mga iba kasing mga ibang tao hindi nare-reach yung self-actualization kasi may iba din mini-maintain lang nila yung kung anong meron sila, 'di ba? Hindi yung nangangarap pa ng todo. May yung ideal self nila is mas higher pa doon sa ibang tao. So hindi nila ma-reach yung max potential or self-actualization na sinasabi ni Carl Roger. Pero nakukuha pa rin natin yung mga needs, yung sinasabi sa theory ni Maslow, yung hierarchy of needs. So need pa rin natin yung food, air, and safety, yung mga ganun, loving, love, belongings, needs, yung mga ganyang needs sa pang-araw-araw natin. But we cannot some of our humans or people has cannot fulfill or cannot go to self-actualization. So, yun yung ibig sabihin ni Carl Roger. So, sa pangalawang sa actualizing tendency, sa pangalawang ano naman is enhancement. So, enhancement is a strong desire to learn and willingness to change. So, enhancement needs are expressed in a variety of forms, including curiosity, playfulness, self-exploration, friendship, and confidence that one can achieve psychological growth. So, psychological growth. So, ito hindi lang sila needs, hindi lang nila needs yung physiological, yung safety, yung food, but they are trying to enhance what they are. Or kung sa atin pa nangangarap pa tayo ng mas mataas pa. Hindi lang yung dyan lang tayo. Hindi tayo nangangarap na mag-explore, curiosity, yung baga mas higher tayong kakamitin or ang pangarap sa sarili natin na what if ito yung kukunin kong kurso, what if ganito, ganyan. Hindi lang yung magtatrabaho na lang ako kasi ito lang yung kaya ko. But this enhancement is my desire ka to learn or you have a willingness, no? But curiosity, self-exploration. So, dyan natin makita or makukuha yung self-actualization talaga na kaya nating ibigay or kaya nating maposes as a human being. So, dito na yon lalabas ang tinatawag ni Carl Roger na self-concept. So, ang self-concept is a being aware of who you are or sino ka talaga as a person, no? Diyan na yun lalabas ang awareness mo. The point na to is ang self-concept natin is dapat ideally, sabi ni Carl Roger, is ideally dapat yung self-concept natin is connected dun sa self-organismic natin, which is yung sino tayo or the real self natin. Dapat yung self-concept natin is lapat dun sa self-organismic natin, which is yung kung sino tayo, yung saan tayo aware. Dapat lapat dun or connected sila or hindi sila magkalayo. Kasi pag magkalayo yun, hindi healthy yung isang tao. Which is, kung dikit lang yun or magkalapat yung dalawa or connected silang dalawa, is it means healthy yung isang tao dahil aware siya kung sino or kung ano siya. 'Di ba? Ayun yung explanation ni Carl Roger. So, yun nga lang, hindi pare-pareha yung mga tao kasi hindi naman tayo fully aware talaga sa sarili natin. Kasi minsan nakakalimutan din natin yung sarili natin. So, may mga tao talagang malayo talaga yung self-concept tsaka organismic self. It is because hindi sila fully aware kung ano sila or kung sino ba talaga sila. So, sa kadahilanan nga, bakit hindi akma yung organismic self at saka self-concept natin or yung ideal self natin, it is because may mga barrier na tinatawag tayo dito na yun yung nakakapag pabago ng ating self-concept na hindi natin maaakma dun sa organismic self natin. Isa na dito, yung sinasabi ni Carl Roger, isa na dito ay yung barrier na tinatawag nila is the positive regard, which is the people regards us in a way that affirms our worth. So, tinatawag din ito ni Carl Roger na condition of worth, no? Ito yung tinatawag ni Carl Roger, which is, ang explanation dito is, habang bata pa tayo, nagde-depend tayo sa magulang natin, which is, for example for this is, ang pag-aaral natin, no? Pag-aaral. Nagde-depende tayo sa kanila dahil kung nagde-depende sa kanila, yung worth natin as as a person dahil hinahanap natin yung positive regards na kailangan natin sa ating family, di ba? And this is what we call positive regards with a condition. Kasi nagdedepende tayo sa condition ng ating magulang. For example, proud ako sa iyo anak pag perfect yung score mo sa exam. So, dun pa lang magpupursige ka na or gagawin mo talaga lahat para ma-perfect ka lang sa exam dahil para ma-proud lang yung family mo. At this point, pag hindi mo yun nagawa, yung pagka-perfect sa exam, diyan na yun papasok yung anxiety ng isang tao dahil hindi niya nagawa yung pinagawa ng magulang niya. So, ang ibig sabihin lang yun guys is if you do this, I will give the positive regard that you want. So, pag nagawa mo to, is dyan ka lang mapupuri kung baga. Or dyan ka lang mabibigyan ng value or may halaga ka sa kanila pag nagawa mo ito. So, as a result guys, mas tataas yung self-concept ng isang tao or yung ideal self ng isang tao. So, magkakaroon ito ng discrepancy or incongruence na tinatawag natin na hindi na siya congruence, which is yung organismic self at saka organismic self at ang self-concept niya ay layo na at hindi na siya akma or hindi na siya pantay or hindi na siya connected doon sa organismic self na. Which is, so sa defensiveness ni Carl Roger, meron siyang dalawang defense mechanism na tinatawag dito, which is yung una is ang distortion. So ang distortion is dinedepensahan ng isang tao na may malakas or mataas na self-concept, yung nagka-problema, may anxiety na nga sa self niya, is ginagawa niya ron, rini-interpret niya yung experience or mas sinasabi ng isang tao para maprotektahan niya yung self-concept niya. Or hindi niya ina-accept yung ganong experience dahil so yung mga na-experience ng isang tao, yung mga defense mechanism, may anxiety na siya. So dun yun magka-crumble yun lahat. So magkagulo-gulo yun lahat at magkakaroon na ito ng disorganization. So ano yung disorganization? Yung disorganization is yun yung ibig sabihin nun is hindi na alam ng isang tao kung ano ba talaga ang totoo, yung organismic self or yung self-concept niya or ang ideal self niya. Kasi nga tumaas na yung ideal self niya at magkakaroon na siya ng doubt or hindi na niya alam kung ano ba talaga siya or kung sino ba talaga siya. So yun guys, yun yung explanation kung paano nangyari na may problema ang isang tao or kailangan niya ng psychotherapy. So ito na yung mga condition of therapy na kailangan nating i-possess as a worker or a social worker or kasi magagamit din natin to sa counseling kung paano natin i-handle yung client natin in every situation kasi yung ganong sitwasyon is commonly makikita natin sa isang tao yung depression, yung ganon, yung mataas yung expectation niya sa sarili niya pero hindi niya nakamit yun. So yun yung mangyayari sa isang tao. So may mga condition ng therapy na sinasabi ni Carl Roger and this is his expertise. It is because more on therapy kasi siya. May mga clients siyang hinahandle and hindi siya mostly theory talaga na sinasabi niya. So, ang condition of therapy, which is the first one, so may tatlong condition of therapy tayo na kailangan nating i-possess para ma-handle natin yung client ng maigi. So, first is the counselor congruence. So, congruence exists when a person's organismic experience are matched by an awareness of them and by an ability and willingness to openly express this feeling. So, Rogers 1980. So, to be congruent means to be real or genuine. To be whole or integrated, to be what one truly is. So, ang ibig sabihin lang ni Carl Roger dito is dapat kung ikaw yung nag-handle ng isang client, dapat makuha mo yung client or maka-open siya sa'yo. Willingness, so may willingness siya open to express his feeling, no, sa problema niya. And dapat you are genuinely, no, genuine ka sa client mo na maging totoo ka lang sa kanya or para maka-open siya sa'yo. Kasi ang client, alam niya kung ano yung totoo or hindi, no? Alam niya kung totoo ba yung kausap niya or nagpa-plastikan lang ba sa kanya. So, dapat as a worker, you are genuinely or totoo ka sa kanya kapag kinausap mo na siya. So, yan yung ibig sabihin ng counselor congruence. So second is the unconditional positive regards. So, as a worker, you have unconditional positive regards. So, wala kang wala kang kondisyon para kausapin or wala kang kondisyon para sa iyong client. So, positive regards is the need to be liked, prized, or accepted by another person. So, dapat i-accept mo yung client mo na walang kondisyon, no? You have an unconditional positive regards na tatanggapin mo yung person, you accepted the person without condition. So, when this need exists without any condition or qualification, unconditional positive regards occurs. So, yun nga, tatanggapin mo yung isang tao, kakausapin mo yung client mo na walang condition, no? Dapat ganun yung personality ng isang worker or isang therapist or counselor ba dyan. Kung magka-counseling tayo, mag-interview tayo, dapat i-accept natin kung ano siya, i-accept natin kung ano yung situation niya, ano yung emotional feelings niya ngayon. So, dapat handa tayo na tanggapin yun lahat. Wala tayong ibang kondisyon na sasabihin, kundi dapat tanggapin at pakinggan natin siya. So, sa last part is the empathic listening. So, ito yung sinasabi ni Roger na we have this kind of skills, the empathic listening towards our client. It is because empathic exists when therapists accurately sense the feelings of their clients and are able to communicate these perceptions so that clients know that another person has entered their world of feelings without prejudice, projection, or evaluation. So, yung empathic listening is hindi ka lang nakikinig but you understand, you accept. So, wala kang ibang comment, wala kang negative comment about what he feel or what kung ano ang kanyang kondisyon, kung ano ang kanyang situation. But you have this kind of skills na makikinig ka sa mga sinasabi ng client mo, pinapakinggan mo, ina-understand mo, at mabibigyan mo rin siya ng enlightenment sa kanyang sarili na kaya niyang ma-fulfill ang kanyang maximum potential as a person without helping others, without the comment of others, without the condition or the positive regards, dahil nga pinapaliwanag mo sa kanya that you don't have being a dependent to other person or to the people around you. So yan yung mangyayari pag may client ka na, especially sa counseling, no. Ito yung mga tatlong condition as a therapy, a condition of therapy na kailangan natin as a counselor or a therapist.